what the pandemic and economic slowdown really demonstrated was just the difficulty in maybe other or non-traditional areas that had workforce impacts that maybe hadn't been considered as much prior to that. By that, I mean, we saw what the impact of childcare and early childhood development facilities did in terms of constricting people's ability to be engaged with work. Even if they were fully working from home remotely, that meant that they had kids in the home, and it was disruptive at the best. But I think for folks that didn't have the luxury of being able to work remotely, it was a complete blockage to them being able to engage in the workforce. And we saw many people kind of go on pause with paying jobs, not because they had a work slowdown, but because they had to take care of family members. And so that's something that really got highlighted in it. I think the real question for chambers, economic development agencies, and other workforce development programs is how do we develop a child care and early childhood engagement and education system that maybe is a little bit more robust for situations like these, that doesn't lose its accessibility. I know that's a big ask, but I'm glad to see it featured so prominently in the plan. Likewise, with things we already knew we were dealing with, transportation. Austin metro area, everyone talks about, before the pandemic in particular, how I think difficult transportation networks have become. That's going to continue to surface as an issue. Right now, we are at the epicenter of where the entire nation, and I think sometimes the world, wants to have a business presence. And that's the best possible issue to have, because we're going to see this economy grow and take off, especially when coronavirus is totally gone and we are fully implementing this plan. But that means that we're really going to have to wrestle with transportation networks. And that's going to require some really smart investments, either through public transportation investments or expanded public-private partnerships to get additional highways and roadways built, or even fun things like Elon Musk's tunnels in this area, since he's invested in this area so much. There's a lot of opportunity there, but we're really going to have to get our arms around it quickly if we want to see this pace of growth continue, because we know businesses cannot come to areas if they can't get their goods and products and services in and out of the area with the ease that they need. And that, of course, is a workforce issue too. So again, the Round Rock Chamber is very pleased to see what the broad brush strokes are in this plan. We've been so honored to be engaged in helping development and inform what our view of the needs are, and look forward to working towards implementation with Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area and their team as we move forward into what will be an exciting time in this economy. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for being here today for the rollout of this important strategic workforce plan. Your participation is critical in the success of this plan. Stay tuned. Coming up, we'll be having a panel discussion to talk about the implementation of our strategic plan in each of the 9 counties.
in our session. As we progress through this, we're going to answer some questions, but be thinking about how, if you're on the call today, that you can participate with us in these local workforce coalitions. You know, the input from each of you in all of our areas is critical to making sure we get the right solutions for the right issues to help make this plan a success. So I want to thank you for your input today, and I look forward to your continued input as we move forward. And I'll start off with our first question, and I'm going to address that first question to our board chair, Frank Leonardis. So Frank, why did the Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area Board of Directors undertake the development of a regional plan and 9 individual county plans?
Well, we thought it was important to document the employer needs in each of our 9 counties, along with the skill sets of the labor force for each of those counties. That allowed us the opportunity to address gaps between the skills that are needed and the skills that are available. So then we can take that area by area and work to address those gaps through various means, such as education and training, and the removal of barriers such as transportation, childcare, workforce housing, healthcare, and broadband internet.
Thanks, Frank. Our next question, I'm going to ask this to our Chief Operations Officer, Diane. Diane, what role does the Texas Workforce Commission play in our workforce plan?
Sure, thanks, Paul. So Texas Workforce Commission is the primary funding source for about 90% of the workforce funding, the childcare funding that comes through Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. They provide that funding for mostly federal resources, such as the Department of Labor, the Department of Agriculture, and the Federal Department of Health and Human Services.
Thanks, Diane. And then our next question asks, what are the, and I'm going to address this question to Dr. Kara Ryan, what are the objectives of the regional and county strategies?
So our main objectives are really to start focusing on how we can build out that workforce ecosystem for all 9 of our counties, and really start addressing, and throughout our plan, we really keyed in on 6 different pieces that affect all of our 9 counties to different degrees. And that's how workforce housing, it's internet access, it's childcare, transportation, and obviously access to training, how we're able to get access to higher education infrastructure, and small business and entrepreneurship ecosystems. How can we help our small businesses grow? So as we go about looking at these ecosystems and how we can develop out these systems that will help us get job seekers into more formalized training, we'll be able to increase the amount of people going into training and getting them entered into career pathways. Workforce development is really it's come up throughout all of our discussions. It's a team sport. All of us need to really work together to make workforce and higher wage opportunities available to all of our residents.
Thank you, Kara. Frank, this next question would be for you. So from the board's perspective, you're the board chair, what does success look like for the plan's rollout, and what should Central Texans expect?
I think what we'll see is engaged coalitions with people working together to mediate the gaps in the skill set, and working on some other bigger picture items like the housing and transportation issues, and engaging resources that are available in each of our communities that can help to impact those areas.
Thanks, Frank. Diane, next question would be for you. How will success of this plan be measured?
So I think ultimately success would be the ability to see a properly skilled workforce that can be the talent supply chain for all of the different employers in each of the counties in our region. We want our employers to have the skill set that they need to be able to supply and grow their enterprises. But in the meantime, we're also going to be measuring some interim success measures, such as forming the coalitions, identifying ways that we can work on the gaps in the community, and being able to measure out the progress that's made during this time frame.
Thanks, Diane. Okay, Kara, next question's for you. Who will help Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area in the rollout and the execution of the plan?
everyone. I hope everyone will be involved in all that we're doing. We need all of our community stakeholders in order to be effective. We need education representatives, economic development representatives. We need our local government employers. We need nonprofits who are adding extra supports to our job seekers. If we time things correctly and leverage all our resources at the same time, we'll be more effective in getting the training access to everyone. So please all come and join and be prepared to give.
So Kara, a follow-on question to that is, how will those community matter coalitions be formed?
That's an excellent question. And we are working with champions in each of our counties to really start forming out how we can work with the current systems that are already in place so that we're not working against the system. We want to find where our resources can be leveraged and maximize that, as well as bring people together to identify where even those gaps are so that we can start looking at how to enhance and fill those gaps. So there's quite a bit going on. And if you have any questions, because we do have 9 variations of this going on, please reach out and we'll figure out the right place for you or your community partner to fit.
And then Kara, one more follow-on question. You may have already answered it, but
Sure.
who will lead the Community Matters coalitions?
It's community led. And with that in mind, we will have chairs and champions who will help us to organize the coalition so that we are truly making it as community led as possible. We will always be a backbone and ensuring that the administrative work also is moving along. But ultimately, it's community led. We're going to need everyone to really buy in, participate, and take on their part in helping us move this along. Like I said, like we kind of said earlier, it's a team sport. We're not going to be effective if we don't get the buy-in and participation from all of our community members.
Thanks, Kara. So Diane, we're back to you. So what's different about the Community Matters coalitions, and how do we make sure we address inclusivity as we roll that out?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. The coalitions are different in the sense that they're intended to tackle some really big infrastructure issues that are a little bit bigger than any one particular organization or agency in the counties. So it may not really be within just the scope of workforce to tackle those issues, but we really acknowledge that those barriers are preventing the talent supply chain that employers need to be able to fill their needs as employers. But the thing about diversity and inclusivity, I mean, it was an issue prior to COVID, but really kind of looking at how quickly everybody pivoted during the pandemic to being able to do things virtually, doing things online, such as this kind of presentation. It really kind of helped to identify the gap between where those issues are in a community and what's holding a community back, and what's holding certain populations within those communities back versus those that have the ability to access quickly and utilize the technology that's available. So I think one of the things that's really great about these coalitions is that although we're addressing big infrastructure issues, we're doing it in a way that's going to build equity within each of the counties. We're going to be able to provide more consistent access. We're going to be able to provide more consistent opportunities for training and skill development and resource development and support for families. So I think that's one of the main ways why the Community Matters Coalition is a little bit different from other work.
Thanks, Diane. So Kara, what do you think some of the challenges will be that you expect as part of the rollout?
That's an excellent question. I'm not expecting too many challenges, in all honesty, and that might be surprising, but in all of our counties, we've already really started really great conversations about how we can get the ball rolling. And in each of our counties, we are taking steps, and I am so proud to work with all of our stakeholders. Everyone is so motivated to make things happen and to answer the challenges that we're all facing right now. So I don't really, the biggest challenge that we'll face is realistically, we have to go slow in order to move fast. It's like a slingshot almost. We have so much prep work that we'll have to go into ensuring that we're all on the same page in how we answer some of these questions, that once we get there and let go and have everyone really participate, all of a sudden we're going to see an explosion of resources in our communities. So, and I'm really excited for that point.
I think it's interesting because we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the idea that there's so much good work that's already happening in the counties, and you can leverage that work and really amplify the impact of that. And I think that's one of the things that these coalitions are here to do. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
And I think that brings to mind a question for me that it's a couple of people had asked as we were going through this process is what's the difference between our workforce board members who come from all 9 counties around our area, and then these coalitions that we're trying to build. And for me, I think the difference is we have board members from each area, and they're certainly welcome to participate. We invite their participation on that, but we wanted to get a broader swath of the entire community in each area, and make sure we had representation from all of the different challenges and barriers that might be out there to prevent workforce from expanding the way we want, like transportation, like healthcare, like housing. So we're trying to be inclusive and bring all those groups in, not to diminish the role of the workforce board by any means, but really to enhance it and to make sure we're getting a good big picture look at everything that we need to do. Kara, so the next one. So given the unexpected impact the coronavirus pandemic has already had on our communities, can this plan that we're rolling out today adjust to rapid changes within our economy and its workforce needs?
So COVID has impacted us in a really unique way. Obviously, COVID has created so many different challenges throughout our communities that were addressed throughout the video or throughout our discussions earlier and in the presentations. With that in mind, it's also spurred so much energy among our stakeholders to find solutions. Right now, we are actually, I think we're all looking to support those job seekers who did lose their opportunities because of the circumstances, that everyone is looking to be a part of the solution and help us all find our way forward. So I'm really excited about what we're forming. I think one of our other difficulties will be internet access. And that's one of the issues that we've actually addressed in the plan for our job seekers, but also for us in getting together. We are still working in a hybrid kind of situation or purely virtual, depending on what's available. But we know even in our rural counties, how important it is for us to talk to some of our stakeholders in person, because virtual access or internet access is limited. So that is going to be one of our challenges, but as the vaccine continues to roll out, I have high hopes that we'll all be in person and seeing each other very soon and just keep it on moving forward.
I think one of the things we learned early on during COVID, one of the challenges was how do we continue to do business and work with everyone we need to work with, while at the same time staying separate and apart and safe. And that led us to the incorporation of technology like we're using today to hold a meeting. And I don't think that we would have ever thought about rolling out a plan, whether it's a workforce plan or anything else, through the use of video and a Zoom call and maybe Facebook Live or however we're doing this today. But the use of that technology and the impact of that technology on how we do business, I think, has been a drastic shift for our industry and for a lot of the community-based organizations. It enables us to work with our peers from not only in other parts of the state, but other parts of the country, other parts of the world. We can get a lot of smart people that want to engage with us on many different issues, just over a phone and a video call. It's been a dramatic difference for us. I think it really has broadened our horizons in a lot of ways. You can't ever replace face-to-face communication, but the use of these technology tools have really helped us in our ability to do business. So Frank, I'll ask the next question for you. So what do you see? You're a private employer in addition to your highly paid job as the board chair for the rural capital area. What are the benefits of the plan for employers in the rural capital area?
Well, I think being that the plan has mostly been directed at being employer focused, the ultimate benefit for us will be to have the properly skilled talent pool available to the employers in our area to allow them to continue to grow and thrive. The low unemployment rate before the pandemic was certainly restricting businesses from being able to grow, I think, in the area at the rate they'd like to. And putting together a plan like this to really address those things, I think is a great thing.
Thank you. So Diane, kind of the opposite side of that question. What are the benefits of the plan for job seekers in the rural capital area?
I actually think Frank kind of got the answer to that question spot on. I think the benefit to the plan for job seekers is that they're going to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that employers have in their community. They're going to be able to have the skill progression and career advancement opportunities to be able to earn a family supporting wage without having to go outside of their county. And that's going to be huge because it's very impactful to the work of economic development in the county, and having those job seekers be able to be employed and remain in the county in which they reside is also going to be very important for the work that we're doing to stabilize and grow different occupations.
Thanks, Diane. So I've got another couple of questions here, Diane, that I'm going to address to you. And these are both about something that not everyone knows the Workforce Board is engaged in, but a very high portion of the funding that the Workforce Board gets comes to help support the childcare industry through subsidized childcare or with supports for childcare providers. So tell me, how does the plan address the rising need for high quality childcare for working families?
I think that's a great statement that you have and a great question. The thing about early care and education is that this is critical in a community for a couple of different ways. First, it supports the family in being able to allow the family to achieve high employment and be able to afford them the opportunity to do the things that they need in order to improve their skills and again get on that career pathway or advance their career. So I think it's kind of integral as one of those backbone structures that's needed for economic development, for community advancement. But I think the other thing that's really important and that we're going to see through this plan that's going to be helpful for early care and education is it's actually kind of a two-pronged approach. The first thing to point out about this is when there is high quality early care and education, you are also creating the workforce of the future because you're allowing an opportunity for those children to be able to have access to the curriculum, the social and emotional skills, the development and support for their brain that they need to be able to enter into elementary school ready to be successful by the time they reach third grade. But at the same time, when you teach those skills early on for those kiddos, you're ingraining in them the social and emotional behavior that you need to be successful and have the soft skills that are needed as adults. So I think that's one key thing that's very important to it. The other benefit of engaging in this planning process and being able to talk about early care and education in the community is that it will help us to build the early care and education industry. It will help us to be able to support the professional development and wage advancement of those teachers that are currently in childcare settings that really need to have that support, advancement, and professional development to provide what's necessary for those children.
Thanks, Diane. And how does this plan help benefit those childcare providers?
I think, ultimately it's going to help childcare providers because we are doing so much work right now in supporting childcare as an industry through business accelerator training, being able to provide more support and encouragement for the background administrative processes that we know all early care and education providers have to complete. That as we go through this planning process through the Workforce Matters and Early Care and Education coalitions, we're really going to be able to identify the needs of that industry. We're going to be able to work together to provide solutions for that needs and be able to gain some efficiency through that coordination and collaboration.
Thank you. So Kara, can you give us kind of an insight to what the current labor market data looks like for our major local industries?
And it's hard to, we didn't pull up data specifically for this meeting, but we can talk a lot about the industries that have been really affected, both positively and negatively throughout COVID and the pandemic in general. We've seen construction and skilled trades. They've pretty much maintained, and we haven't really seen too much of a slowdown in their seeking out of job seekers. If anything, we've had trouble being able to get education out to help them fill those positions right now. And luckily, because of the vaccine, we should be opening up some of those training opportunities again very soon. We know manufacturing is about to come back online. They never stopped recruiting in general, but we know that Tesla is going to start recruiting very soon. We know that there's other opportunities growing very quickly in the rural capital area, and we are going to need far more manufacturing job seekers to want to choose this industry. IT is exploding, and we need far more people to come into these areas. Healthcare obviously first has been dramatically impacted, and we need to better explore how we can support our job seekers going into those industries as well as, and logistics. How can there's no forgetting about Amazon and all of the opportunities that they're creating throughout the Central Texas region, and more. There's some other companies that are also being added, that are adding jobs in logistics that we're going to see our unemployment numbers very quickly decrease. And we're going to go back to, as Jason Ball talked about it earlier, we're going to see those numbers, we're going to address those issues very quickly again, which is why we want these coalitions in place as soon as possible, so that we can start looking at these issues as a whole to make sure that we're placing job seekers where they're most needed and where they can find opportunities that will give them those family sustaining wages.
So Kara, do you see any how will those industries benefit from this plan?
These industries will benefit greatly because we will have more partners at the table coordinating efforts simultaneously to streamline the answers to a lot of these needs. So we'll be able to coordinate the training. We'll be able to coordinate childcare support and any other job seeker support that they might need, and place the training more locally so that we can actually facilitate that going right to a local employer. And as we heard some of our other, Debbie in particular talked about it, and so did Donna, about workforce housing, and how if we're looking at those issues as a whole, then we can look at more entry-level job seekers finding opportunities in this area, which would then put them on that career pathway, especially in logistics and manufacturing, skilled trades. So there's a lot that we can do, and it will help us answer these needs much quicker.
Thanks, Kara. So Diane, one more question for you. How does this plan address the upskilling needs of our workforce?
So I think one of the benefits of being able to have these Workforce Matters coalitions and really engage with each of our county stakeholders in our counties a little bit closer is that we're going to be able to identify skills gaps a lot more succinctly and a lot more locally for what will be needed in individual communities than what we've been able to do in the past. And I think once we identify those skills gaps, we're going to be able to work together as a community and as a coalition to see what training resources are already in the areas, identify funding, resources, equipment, tools, space that could be utilized to help support that training, and then work with all of our different partners to identify who the appropriate resource would be to come in and deliver that training. And I think the benefit of that is that we're not only going to be talking to community organizations, but we're really looking to engage employers and helping to identify what those skills gaps are, so that when we correct those skills gaps through training, that we will be providing an actual local correction that will meet the needs of employers in that community.
You know, and I love that you brought that up because we've talked about our economic development partners being such important stakeholders. And also in support with identifying those gaps, it's also our incoming employers who we know have continued to look at the Central Texas area and are still interested in moving here. It's so important for us to continue those conversations and be ready with training and preparing ahead of time as those employers come on board to fill those jobs as quickly as possible. So I just to add on to Diane's point, why we're all working together so well in order to meet some of these gaps.
You know, a year ago, we talked about the fact that Texas was growing exponentially. It's still growing exponentially. And I don't know if the data still holds true, but at the time, you know, about a year ago, I looked at some data that said about 1,000 people a day were arriving in the state of Texas. About 500 of those were moving here from somewhere else, and another 500 were born. And that's every day. And that really brought home the significance to me. We have to be prepared to grow our own and provide opportunities and the right educational programs to allow our kids to grow up and be able to find good jobs in the areas that they live in if we want our communities to stay vibrant and growing. At the same time, we're welcoming in people from outside of Texas, welcoming them to our area, bringing their skills into our labor force and enhancing those skills where needed. Frank, what are you most excited about as we roll out this plan, both as board chair and as a private employer?
Well, one thing that's been most exciting to me is to see us bring together all the different organizations in the communities, education, economic development, chambers of commerce, the business leaders, community-based organizations, all bringing them together to engage in the discussions about workforce development. So I think bringing everybody in together into it has got tremendous benefit for all of our communities, and making sure that businesses have the talent that is necessary to be able to continue to thrive. We've been seeing tremendous economic growth in Texas, and I think we expect to see that going forward. And I think this plan is setting the path to be able to continue that.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question, Paul?
Sure.
What is it that you're most looking forward to?
I think being able to have it published and say we have completed the plan, and now the real work starts. And the exciting part for me is, and here lately, has been being able to get back out and go see a lot of the people that we've been looking at on video and talking to on the phone, and be able to sit down with them in person and have some discussions. I think it really helps people better engage when we get together in person. You see the excitement levels coming from employers that need to hire people, from educators that are eager to provide some of that workforce training that we need, and bringing some new people into the discussions that we haven't talked to before in this area, like people talking about housing, and really trying to broaden that discussion and really look at some things that we as a workforce board, we can't strictly address, but we can work to bring the right people into the room that can help address those things. And I think when we all start working together on these issues, we get much closer to some kind of a solution to the problem than if we all stay in our silos and don't have the ability to get out and interact with each other. Thanks, Anne.
Hey, no problem.
I think we may have some questions in the Q&A. We're in chat, and I don't know if somebody can bring those up for us.
Sure.
Chat or that's fine. So there was a question there, and I was going to come back around to that at the end, but we'll do that now. If you were interested in joining one of the Community Matters coalitions in your county,
Do you want me to do it?
Please email communications@ruralcapital.net, and our coordinators will reach out to you to provide information on upcoming meetings. Those meetings should be happening in each county, hopefully during April and early May. We hope to have all of them done by no later than the end of May, and get those coalitions really working. A question came in, says, what additional educational supports like literacy needs, computer training, interviewing skills, etc., are being considered to support families in pursuing educational and training opportunities that may need extra assistance. I'll try to answer that one from a broad perspective. So within our workforce programs, we have resources to help support students that are in training to some degree, not enough resources there to support that for everyone. And then we also can help students utilize other resources like Pell Grants and things like that to work out a funding scenario to help cover the cost of not only the training, but all the things that need to go along with the training to help them get through and be successful. Diane, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's a great answer. I think also there was a question that came up earlier that talked about needing to interest in getting to ED or high school equivalency. And I think that's a great statement that that is absolutely one of the things that we're here to help with. And through these coalitions, we're looking to be able to bridge resources so that we know that there's great work that's happening in the community, but we want to make sure that that work is kind of leveraged and integrated and provided to the community in a way that any citizen who needs that information is going to be able to get that information. And it has to do with all of the other things that you addressed as well.
Thanks, Diane. We have a question here that's very broad-based. Hopefully we didn't bite off more than we could chew. But this question is talking about improving transportation options between the Austin area and the San Antonio area, specifically from Buda, Kyle, San Marcos, into New Braunfels, Schertz, San Antonio, etc. We need transportation options to be seamless and not just jointed between the two regions. Well, completely agree. And you know, I think that's one of the things we certainly want to work on. I've heard that expressed from almost universally from everyone. We can't continue to grow and have 35 be as non-moving as it is at times. It's crucial, especially to things like our logistics industry that is just, you know, is really focused on getting things up and down that corridor, and then people being able to get to work using that corridor as well to get to work. There's a lot of people going back and forth in that region, and we you know, that definitely has to be part of things that we look at. Here's a question about broadband. That in Wimberley, Hayes County, broadband or high-speed internet is not available for all homes within the city. How will providers be encouraged to provide this service? So we're working to bring broadband providers into the discussion in each of our local workforce coalitions to talk about what their issues are, what their limitations are, and I know there has been some work done in several counties to really study where the limited broadband areas are, and to try to start looking at potential solutions for those things. We want to try to help make that be as inclusive as possible. I know the legislature is in session right now, and one of the things they're working on is a statewide internet plan. Texas is one of the few states that does not have an internet plan. So we are hoping that there will be some assistance coming out of that as well. Diane, I'll let you answer the one on diversity if you don't mind.
Sure. So the question says, in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, what steps will be, could you scroll back down a little bit? Sorry. Okay. In terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, what steps will be taken by the committee to ensure diversity is community-led, the diversity in community-led coalitions, and that is inclusive of BIPOC-led community-based organizations? I think this is a fantastic question. And it kind of gets to the point of what we've realized has happened with COVID and the pivoting of communities to looking at things online and being able to do business online, and really identifying those areas of the community that have the ability to access those resources and those that don't. So, you know, as we're building out these community coalitions, I would encourage anybody who is interested to really reach out to us and let us know that you're interested. And then I think what we've also done is try to be very strategic and be very open and engaging as we're reaching out to different community organizations and partners to identify who would be appropriate and who would be interested to participate in the coalition. So I know that we've had some great conversations with a couple of different community-based organizations in Hays County and Caldwell County. And we're also looking at some partnerships with some organizations in Bastrop County, but we're definitely open for any suggestions or any interest. And I think that's where we would rely on the community also to let us know when we've gotten it right, when we need to do a better job.
Thanks, Diane. Another question came in about where should new business owners start in relation to working with the overall strategic plan? A separate question, how is Workforce Solutions Childcare working with the community to allow relative providers to provide care through them temporarily until CCS is able to assist with licensed providers? That process has such a long wait list. How can students and employees gain easier access to assistance with this, since so many are needing care in home right now? Diane, you're our child care expert. What do you think?
Rosemary, that is a great question. I think we've had some good conversations about that. We do acknowledge that there is a strong need for quality early care and education in the communities. And until families are able to access that need through a licensed and regulated provider, many families are using relative care to be able to support the early care and education needs so that the parent would be able to go out and be employed or go to school. And so we do have a process that relative providers would be able to go through in order to be served through Child Care Solutions. One of the things is that a relative provider does need to be listed through the Department of Family and Protective Services Child Care Regulation website. So there's a little bit of a background check process. But I think the key thing to know about that is if there is a family that is in need or that is interested in engaging in relative care, that they should reach out to us. And then I think the second part of that question is, for those relative providers that are currently providing care, I want to make sure that those relative providers also understand that we do have resources available that would help build that work that you're doing right now from just caring for a family member or a relative. We can help to support you to build that into an actual business through some entrepreneurial work. And so through some other dollars that we have and some professional development, communication and things like that. So, definitely I understand that there's a need for that. And I think that's a great way to build the industry is through looking at those smaller individuals that are currently providing services and help to stabilize them and support them so that they can grow into a larger business.
Thanks, Diane. Yeah. Another question is, how will the strategic plan define self-sufficiency wages using federal poverty level guides, livable wage, or other local definition? So I know for years we've used self-sufficiency wage to determine which training occupations we would spend workforce board resources on paying to send people to training for. And we have usually set that at around, in the past, it's been set at $18 an hour. For the plan, I assume that that self-sufficiency wage would be around $18 an hour as well. Diane, unless you had some different thoughts about that.
I think that's one of the things where we need to look at what's happening in each individual county, as well as look at what's happening across the whole 9-county region as a whole. Although we do have kind of a set methodology algorithm that we use to figure out what would be appropriate for the whole 9-county region. When you really look at self-sufficiency, I think, it can be defined so many different ways. It can be defined as family supporting wage. It could be defined as what you can afford to live on. But it really varies based on the different circumstances of the community. And I think that's one of the things that we would have our Community Matters or Workforce Matters coalitions look at if that's something that's important to that community.
That's a good point, because it could be a very different point of information from Williamson County, where Round Rock is, to say Llano County or Fayette County that are further removed from a more urban area. Thanks, Diane. So here's a follow-up question on transportation. Has there been planning and or development to address access to the Tesla plant, which is right off of 130 there in Austin? Current transportation stops well short of the site. There are current challenges in construction workers to access, but how will access be made once the factory is opening? That's a great question. We'd love to follow up on that. That would be one of those things that I would like to consult with our peers from Capital Area and talk about things specific to the Austin, Travis County area. As those decisions are made, really within those confines, and we would work with them to help understand what that is and let them know about our concern with how things may be going and how we want to be able to interact with them and how they should be wanting to interact with us.
If it helps also, we do participate on the Capital Metro Plan. So we sit on the committee that helps inform some of how we will all work together throughout the region on building out transportation solutions. And what we do as an organization is discuss how we can share data and help see how we can help our communities work together on these solutions. Because realistically, we also have to look at there are a lot of different factors that go into all of this. Travis County, obviously Tesla's in Travis County, and part of this is that we need it to connect to Bastrop and Caldwell and Williamson. So as we move forward, we'll be looking more, and we'll be contributing more data about our populations and to these committees and helping to look at solutions as we move forward. And that's one of the high points of our coalitions, is to work together with our partners, share data, and make sure that we're looking at all of these factors as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Kara. A good addition. We have reached the point in our agenda where we would open this up to further questions from the audience. If anybody has any questions and they'd like to unmute and ask a question, we would be happy to entertain those questions.
So I'm not entirely certain that people can unmute at
Okay.
this point. What we might do is have people continue to put questions through the Q&A.
Okay.
For a few minutes, but it seems like we've answered the majority of those questions. I know also that our Brian, our chief storyteller, has put the communications email address out, I believe, through chat and through Q&A. So I think even once this event has ended, we will still be happy to answer some questions that come through and be able to continue to get the information out that's coming through. If anybody would like to ask a question and you're able to raise your hand, I know that we can individually go through and unmute you. So we could also wait for a moment for that as well.
While that's happening, Frank, would you like to just say anything in closing?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Going through this process, it's been really exciting to bring so many people and organizations in each of our 9 counties together to engage in the development of this plan. Since I've joined the board, this is really the first effort that I've ever seen to really bring together people to make a difference in not only the workforce of our communities, but being able to bring good jobs to the people seeking employment. So it's been a wonderful process so far. Looking forward to the rollout and the implementation of the action part of the plan. And as Kara said earlier a little bit, is we really need everybody's input, and we would love for you to engage when we're in your community and help us to make this a success. So thank you all for your participation today.
Thank you, Frank. Kara, how about you?
I wasn't prepared for closing thoughts. Just that I really look forward to working with everyone. This plan has really been about engaging everyone, and there will be so many follow-up conversations. Please reach out if you do have any questions or thoughts, concerns, anything. That's how we move forward.
Thank you, Kara. Diane?
I have so many thoughts. But I think really just what I want to say is what I've noticed in the past few years is I've seen so much momentum around the support and the expansion and improvement of quality early care and education, not just in our 9-county area, but across the state, that I really look forward to being able to coordinate with employers and communicate with employers and really be able to see how this expansion and this support into the improvement of the quality of that type of critical economic support for a community is going to be beneficial, and what we can do to ensure that employers are getting that kind of infrastructure built up so that we can provide them with the skilled workforce that they need. So I'm super excited about this. I'm also excited about being able to look at all the different work that's happening in the 9 counties and bring that together so that we can amplify that as a whole and really be able to bring awareness to what's already happening and what we can do to build on that.
Thanks, Diane. I will close just want to say again, thank you to all of our partners, all of our stakeholders. We had the opportunity to really work on these issues with a lot of our educational providers, our school districts, the community colleges, Austin Community College, Blinn Community College, Central Texas College, Temple College, Texas State Technical College. I think we talked to people at each of those institutions. They were all excited about getting on board with some of the things we're talking about doing. And as potential solutions arise out of these coalitions, we'll be working with our training providers to determine how do we best roll out that kind of upskilling that's needed. Ideally, we're able to provide that upskilling close to home for people so that they're not having to travel far, so that they can still work, take care of their kids, and be able to improve their skill levels, do all of that at the same time. It's really exciting. I think this, to me, this is a definition of a win-win situation, because we're going to help people get better jobs. We're going to help employers find more highly skilled, better employees, and that bodes nothing but well for our economy and for our communities. So I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. I appreciate your time. This has been very enjoyable for me and very informative. I hope you feel the same, and look forward to talking more on this in the future. Thank you.